Hello, hello, and welcome back. This is my second day in a row, and I'll be honest, I didn't want to do this today either. Starting out with some real honesty right now. Um, yeah, I've just been experiencing a lot of things today, and I'm just like, what's going on with me? Because, I'm thinking things I don't normally think, or I'm eating things I don't normally eat, and I'm just like, and I was just, you know, almost dreading, well, a bit dreading, well, being nervous about like doing another YouTube. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because before I could at least find some excitement with it, and then I was also going to YouTube to find that inspiration to keep going, and I was finding it. But I'm just like, I'm just feeling really weird about this. Like, I just feel off today, and it hit me like a light bulb. I was just like, oh, okay. So it's actually maybe like three things, kind of three things. So I was just like, oh, okay, that's interesting that I made that association. So for those of you who are not aware with the Asian calendar, it is the Lunar New Year. It's the year of the snake. So for most people, it's like a happy time, spending time with family, and all that stuff, which is all well and good. That's not the issue I'm having with this. But I don't really know too much about Lunar New Year's. I wasn't really raised in that culture. I know a bit about it. I've learned a bit about it over the years, kind of like, oh, you eat long noodles because noodles represent long life, or something I actually just learned a couple weeks ago from someone. It's like, oh, one of the reasons why in Chinese, I'm not sure about other Asian cultures, they like to eat shrimp because in Cantonese, ha is like shrimp is like ha, like I mostly know that because haga, one of the dumplings and things, and it's supposed to be like ha, like laughter, bringing joy into the new year. I know little things like that, like mandarins are good luck and stuff like that. You know, people give red envelopes to others. There's a whole thing about who gets one, who doesn't. I don't know that, but it's the year of the snake, and you know, I've heard different people say, oh, this is a great year for this sign, not a great year for this sign. And I don't know who to believe about that kind of stuff because there's too much information on the internet. But what coincides with the Lunar New Year is also it's a new moon. So I know I've noticed over, the past couple years, I am affected by the full and the new moon in various different ways. I think many of us are. I mean, that's just kind of, I think, the moon and water, I don't know the science. I don't know the science, but I have noticed that. And I'm just like, oh, maybe that's why I'm having all this stuff that I don't normally do come up and stuff like that. And, you can, I guess, go off the woo woo and, well, no, I don't even want to say woo woo and, but, some people's like, oh, because of the moon phases, then you're kind of dealing with parasites, and I don't know. I could honestly say I don't know. Like, you know, do we all need to have healthier lifestyles? I think for the most part, 99% of the people can say yes. But it's just like, okay, it's like the moon phases, like the moon affects water. That explains why I'm seeing, kind of doing things a little differently than what I would typically do. Because I kind of do notice that. But I feel it really strong today. And I'm wondering if this is like a type of special new moon thing, or if it's also because the Chinese Asian Lunar New Year, where it's just magnified because of the new energy of the new year. I'm not sure. Maybe, or maybe that's just my perception of what's going on. And, digging further into that, I'm just like, okay, what's the purpose of me feeling all this stuff and doing all this stuff I normally don't do? And, I could just be totally dismissive, like, oh, it's the moon stuff, whatever. but I want to dive a little deeper into that. Like, why am I doing this stuff I don't typically do and stuff like that? And I got an answer. And it was just like, because I feel like I'm not strong or powerful enough to, um, I'm trying to think of the right words. I'm not strong or powerful enough to be able to keep myself centered no matter what is happening externally of me. I'm like, oh, okay, that was great. Like, it's like revealing, a lie I keep telling myself. Now I'm like, okay, now what do I do with that? Is it interesting that we find things out about ourselves and it's like, okay, now what do I do with that? Because, I'd be like, girl, that's not true. You can do lots of things. Or, you're in like bad situations and like you tell yourself all these lies all the time and you know they're a lie, but you can't figure out how to change it. And sometimes you can't. Like the answer is just really clear. I'm not in that clear phase right now. And you know what? That's okay, but I at least have an answer. It's just, it's a lie that I've known about, but this new year, new moon, all this stuff just made it more clear to me. I'm just like, oh, okay. So maybe there is another deeper belief with that. That I'm not sure, but I'm going to take the win saying, okay, I'm very clear on that lie I'm telling myself because as I'm like thinking about, oh, I got to do another video today and dreading it. Now this was a very different feeling than what I was feeling yesterday, just trying to make my first video, like still like a little angsty about it, but like this was like different. I'm like, okay. So it's like, okay, like there's a lot of energy here. And, you know, listening to your feelings is good, but, you also have to dive deeper than just the feelings because I feel like feelings can lie to you. Like how you think you feel, or you can misrepresent the feelings. You have to really go to the beliefs. I learned this from Bashar. He is channeled by a man named Daryl. I'm not going to attempt the last name because I can hear, but I know it's not going to come out correctly. And it's like how you define your definitions. And, and it really is true because if you like were to think about it, like, for stuff that you don't care about and people tell you something, you're like, whatever. But if you do have energy on it, then it's like, okay, there's something going on there. Like, if I had a homeless person look at me and tell me I'm ugly, I'm crazy, and I have three horns coming out of my head, I'm not gonna take that to heart. I'm just not. But, if I have someone I know tell me something that I might not find pleasant, I don't even want to think of what that could be because I don't know. I want to put that in the universe right now because I'm just focusing on this. I don't want my brain to potentially go down a spiral because I will go off on a tangent with that. I'm just like, and then he's like, maybe that is true. Like, maybe, I am that way and I don't realize I'm doing that, which, we all, we, I think us as the small personality that we are as human, we might have blind spots to things and don't realize we're doing certain things. And sometimes we need people to point them out. And sometimes people are kind enough to point them out. Sometimes people are not as kind to not point them out. And sometimes people will do things in a not nice way. And however it comes out. Just grateful to have the information at some point. Um, yeah, so I've had experiences like that. One one of my bigger experiences with how many years ago was that? Maybe that was 6 years ago, give or take. I was like going to a seminar of something like in California. It was this guy Eric. He goes by a different name now, and personal development and stuff like that. And it's like I wanted to go. I was like part of this group. I did some stuff with him. It's like meeting all people again, and I was meeting a lot of these people live in person for the first time because internet, you can meet anyone from anywhere in the world and have conversations and build relationships and never meet them in person or until much much later. And you know there was a lot of people that knew me because I was being very active because I will say one of the things with Eric, he was just like, you got to get on camera. And the level of fear I have is nothing compared to what it was like back then. Because it's like, no. I mean, I still have a little bit of fear, but not like 6 years ago. So I was just like doing like Facebook Lives and getting out of my comfort zone and that. So basically, in this group, a lot of people knew me because I would just force myself to hit the record button. I would do Facebook Lives because the group was on Facebook. And I'm just like, if I do a live, I can't stop and think about what I'm doing. And that's kind of why if you see myself pausing and thinking, I'm like, I can't hit, no, I can't edit, I can't hit the stop button because I used to do that a lot with my first YouTube and it would just take too long. And I'm just like, if I'm going to be a mess, let me be a mess. So I had all these people know me because I would do Facebook Lives in the group all the time. And I did not look as uncomfortable as I felt, but I felt really, really uncomfortable. So again, back to the story where, I'm going to the seminar, I'm meeting a bunch of people. And okay, first disclaimer, um, I'm not saying I have or do not have anything. I just notice certain parallels. I'm not a medical professional by any chance. I'm not trying to self diagnose or anything of anybody, including myself, because I know, and I have gone down that rabbit hole and I don't want to keep going down that rabbit hole again. Okay, disclaimer. Okay, so I met with a lot of people. And some of these people I knew more one on one. Some of the people I didn't even know at all, but they knew me. And it's weird. It's like people know you, but you don't know. It's a little odd. And then it's like, they were telling me about their kids and the struggles they had like with their kids because they're not like little kids, they're like young adults. And a lot of it was sensory stuff. And I'm like, I totally get that. So one of the things I really discovered also during this event was I had a VIP ticket. And for most of you who've done seminars and things, when you typically have a VIP ticket, you typically have like a nice badge and you're like sitting near the front and all this stuff. Basically, I couldn't. I couldn't. I was so overstimulated, so overwhelmed. I had to take many breaks leaving the room, or I would like grab a chair from like one of the mini seatings and sit all the way in the back, even though I had a VIP, everything. I couldn't physically handle it. I was so overstimulated. And when I was meeting with people, yeah, I can have be really connected, good conversations with up to maybe 3 people. Once it start getting to 4 or 5 and 6, I completely withdrew. And it was something I was like, oh, what's happening here? It's like, and it didn't matter who the personality types were, it just automatically happened. I was just like, oh, this is interesting. Like I know I personally do well more one-on-one small groups, but it's just like because we were going in different groups and meeting different people, I'm just like, oh, that's interesting that I have a pattern of doing that. Like once the groups get big, I don't talk anymore, like at all. Even though I have all this stuff going in my brain, I don't talk anymore. And I just go into observation mode. Again, going back to the story, because sometimes I have to remind myself going back to the story. And then, I was talking to them and they were telling me about their, children, young adults, and sensory issues. Is like, oh yeah, my son couldn't even handle this. Like he would probably have something like a seizure, like there's like too much lights and noise, he would like get a headache and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I go through that. Another was talking about, their kid like not dealing with this and it's like different smells. I'm like, oh, I totally get that. And like after talking to like 3 to 4 parents, I just realized I'm like, oh, something's actually not wrong with me. Isn't that interesting where, for the longest time I thought something was always wrong with me because it's like I don't think the same way most people do. I mean, I think a lot of us think that way about ourselves. Like, especially as we're evolving our consciousness, becoming adults, and really finding out who we are. I'm just like, people don't think the same way I do. And I'm just like, not many, you know, of my peers were into entrepreneurship or spiritual development, personal development. real estate. Like, nobody I knew was interested in any of that. So I was like interested in like weird different things, and they were like interested in going to nightclubs and drinking and sports. That's just ain't me. So I'm just like, okay, finding my tribe. But but it was still hard trying to find connections that way, because sometimes as you're shifting into different realities that you're trying to do, it's just, it can be challenging. So, and then after talking to these people about their young adult children, I'm just like, it finally occurred to me that nothing is wrong with me. My brain just works differently, and it's similar to their brains, because I was actually able to articulate probably what they were going through. Not to say I am diagnosing anybody, but I can say I could understand that because they couldn't understand certain things. And not, I'm sure not everything I said worked or was like 100% accurate, but I'm like, oh, I could totally understand that. Like, especially like the sensory stuff. It's just like malls and scents and like certain things on my skin, you know, but especially smells like a huge trigger for me. I'm just like, nope, nope. But it was like that experience where, I'm just like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. My brain is just different. And that was like a huge relief knowing that. And I was just like, this epiphany, like, oh my God, all this new information, this totally makes sense, because, a lot of times when you have like these sensory stuff and how how you think and stuff like that, it comes with certain stigmas and definitions. And I'm just like, because I never thought of myself as having a specific condition, because my definitions of what I thought was very different from what I was. And if you look on the internet, you'll find lots of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to diagnose myself. I don't even think there's a point of me diagnosing myself. I don't know if how I still feel about that now. I go back and forth a little bit of it, but anyway, coming back to the point where getting epiphany moments where you're just like, oh, and then I couldn't wait to tell my boyfriend at the time. He's like, oh yeah, I knew that. I'm like, but what do you mean you do? And I was with him, oh, still am, for like probably 6 years at that point, something like that. He's like, oh yeah, I have friends with this and this. And like, yeah, you do the same thing. It's just on a less degree than they do. I'm like, how could you not tell me? And he's like, how could I tell you? And I'm like, oh, you're right, because I would have been pissed off if he told me that. It's right. It's kind of like he did it in a loving way, because like, I can't say this, but he knew how to hold space for me to figure it out. And then then there are times I just kind of spiral, not spiral, but I get in a pattern, and he does his best to help me break out of the pattern, or just knows us like, okay, I need to step away. And normally one of my patterns I get into is I have to impulsively clean. Like, I will just go to town and everything will be in total chaos, and I will clean and organize things and like get rid of stuff. And he knows if I'm in that mood not to come near me, because I need to clean. That's one of my things. I have to clean. So again, coming back to the point, because I feel like, oh, am I this? I'm like, okay, where was I going with this story? Why did I want to share it? So I'm like, in my brain, as I'm talking, I'm like, wait, I have to get back to the original point of talking about this with New Year's and new moon and these limiting beliefs. And, you know, like, I had this limiting belief, you know, that something was always wrong with me. And then meeting other people, it's like, nothing's wrong with me. My brain just works differently. And just having that knowledge was like, oh my God. Like, and then being able to work with that. I mean, we all have our challenges. I'm not saying everything is a walk in the park now because I know how to do everything now. It's like, no, I don't know how to do everything. But it's just like, okay, oh, I know I'm having a moment right now. And I was having a reminder of that day like right now, just because it's like, oh, I'm having a moment right now, like, huh, okay, let's take a look at some of our definitions and how I'm talking to myself. Like, I don't need to talk to myself this way. I'm choosing to talk to myself this way, and I'm specifically using those words because if I keep saying things in a victim like way, it takes away my power, and that I can't change it. Like, if it's something within my power, I can change it. If I don't know how to change it, I can at least start the ball rolling by looking into how to change it, but it's still within my power versus blaming everything on something or something else. So I found that very enlightening today because, it's Lunar New Year. It's the year of the snake. I hear some people say, oh, because I'm kind of in my enemy year. I've heard different people say different things. Like some things I read is like, oh no, it's the worst luck when it's the year of your animal, and no, other people, no, it's the worst luck when you're in your enemy year. I don't know. I don't know, but I know that, you know, even if this is a quote unquote unlucky year for me, if it is or if it's not, I don't know. But I can choose with everything that's happening to me, like the thoughts, to try to find the positive out of this and come out a little bit better, more enlightened, finding more of myself in this situation. Like, for instance, again, Chinese New Year, New Year's, I'm feeling really off. I'm eating things I don't normally eat. I'm having a lot of different thoughts. It's just like, oh, this is a reminder. You have this lie you keep telling yourself, you're not worthy, you're not deserving, you're not strong enough, you're not. So it's like, okay, like, we need to do something about that. Yeah. And I don't have the answer to what that is, but at least I got, okay, this is what we have to work on. And, everyone's a work in progress. I mean, I'm not an omnipotent God that has all the answers to everything, you know, but it's just like I can start somewhere. And it's better to start somewhere than not starting at all and just blaming everyone for everything else. So with that note, keeping everything on a positive, bright light, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all have a fantastic Lunar New Year, and if you're looking for reasons to start something new or adventure and you're having all this chitter chatter like I can't do this, I'm gonna say yes you can. Just tell that negative ego, it's like, okay, you be quiet right now. I'm gonna do this now. You be quiet over here. I'm gonna do this. We'll talk later, or maybe you have the conversation first, but it's just like, okay, I hear you, but I need to do this first, and then we can come back to you. Something, whatever works for you, because we all have our processes of doing everything. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.